Welcome back. All right, so before tonight's games get started, I feel like there's some hockey stuff we might want to talk about in a news video first, starting with Rick Tocchet. He's out. And apparently Adam Foote's contract's up too. I think it was Friedman that was reporting that Adam Foote's free to talk to other teams. Rick Tocchet wanted to move east, is what Jim Rutherford said in his presser, although I get the feeling there were other reasons given that were not provided. He basically said that Tocchet can talk about whatever he wants when he publicly makes a statement on it. But Rick Tocchet's out. So how quickly do we see him back on TNT broadcasts? It is amazing how quickly everything went wrong for the Canucks. Like, I mean, I knew they weren't going to be as good this season as last season, but wow. And then the question becomes, does Hughes want out? Is Quinn Hughes going to want out next? And apparently he didn't answer Rutherford's call as of yet, so he said he hopes that Quinn's out golfing. But even if you're out golfing, like, it's not like you can't have your phone on the golf course. There are stories of hockey players being informed they've been traded while they're out golfing, or having to answer calls for various reasons while they're out golfing. So, is Hughes going to want out? And this is a question that I think is a fair one. And I'm not a person who would be angry at Quinn Hughes if he decides, yeah, I'd like to go somewhere else. He's in his prime. And all of this in Vancouver right now is kind of a disaster. So I honestly wouldn't blame him if he said, yeah, I kind of want out. Interestingly enough, they brought up Mike Sullivan. And Rutherford says he was on the phone with Sullivan yesterday for completely unrelated reasons, which is fair because obviously Rutherford, having, run things in Pittsburgh, probably knows Sullivan pretty well. And Sullivan wants to stay in the East. So for Boston fans, that works out pretty well. For Ranger fans, etc., Sullivan doesn't want to be coaching out West. And that is a trick. And he basically said it is tough with the Canucks travel to convince people to come here in some cases. They do not want the Vancouver Canucks travel schedule, which has been discussed for a long, long time. I can remember when I started watching the Canucks back in the early 80s, there was discussions of their travel. And that was at a time before every team had private jets, so it was even more of a nightmare back then. So, one person who's on the short list, and I think a lot of Canuck fans would love to see this happen, Manny Malhotra's done a fantastic job with the Abbotsford Canucks. The Abbotsford Canucks into the second round of the playoffs now, so Malhotra is on the short list. So they're going to look to get a coach. I got the feeling from the presser they're going to look to get a coach in place before we get to the draft. But yeah, the Vancouver Canucks have Malhotra on the short list. Good. I think basically bringing somebody up from within the organization would make a lot of sense. And I think he'd be a very popular pick for the Canucks. Everywhere that Malhotra goes, people love him. So I think that would be a popular pick if they were to do that. And yes, on some level, I kind of feel like what Tocchet's done with the Canucks is not dissimilar to what the Canucks did with Bruce Boudreau, where it was obvious for ages that Boudreau was going to get fired and that Tocchet was the guy who was going to replace him, and he was left as a lame duck coach for a while. And it feels like Tocchet, we kind of all knew that Tocchet probably wasn't coming back, but the Canucks weren't informed of that until now. So we'll see what happens with Tocchet, whether he ends up coaching or if he ends up back in the broadcast studio. I have to say that after a couple of years of coaching the Vancouver Canucks, a broadcast studio would probably look fantastic. There are just a lot of things with the market that I totally understand why a coach would say no thanks. And after the season they just had, the idea of coming back and rolling it back next year, I totally get why Tocchet would want out. So how long is it before Tocchet's tied to the Flyers? If he wants to go east, the Flyers need a coach. Right? So I would think Tocchet probably ends up going to Philadelphia, and his coaching style might suit the Flyers just perfectly fine. Bad weather has forced the evacuation of Maple Leaf Square, so they keep showing the Maple Leaf Square, all the fans there. And I hate how, and I think it's just David Amber for the most part calls it a mosh pit, the mosh pit in Toronto. No, see, a group of people standing around in the street is not a mosh pit. I've been to a lot of metal concerts. I can show you mosh pits. Mosh pits usually involve bruises, punching. Sometimes people fall down and get stomped on. What we have in Toronto is just a gathering of sports fans to dance around and scream. So, yeah, that's been closed down due to bad weather. Going back up the board, so I realized right away that I had skipped this item, but let's go back to it. And the reason I'm wearing a Ducks jersey, owner Henry Samueli is investing $1 billion into renovating the Honda Center. The Honda Center in Anaheim is a beautiful building. It is. But it's also cavernous, and there are definitely ways to fix the arena and to make it work a little bit better than what it does. Concessions, lines, and all that. They're not the only building in the NHL that deals with that, but what I was reading was that this is now the 4th oldest building in the National Hockey League. Soon to be 3rd, I would think, because Saddledome's coming down in Calgary. Or at the very least, not going to be used by the Calgary Flames, right, when they build the new one. So, yeah, this is on top of... So the $1 billion that he's using to renovate the Honda Center is on top of the $4 billion invested into the entertainment district. I know the Anaheim Ducks are really excited about this. When we were down in Anaheim a couple of visits ago, they were really, really stoked about what was going on and talking to me about, they're going to be basically rejuvenating that whole area. And there is definitely room there for some rejuvenation. And it's right next to the train station. So it is actually in a pretty good location in Anaheim. And I think this is a fantastic move on their part. We've talked about this too, how entertainment districts, I think, are a much better investment than just, okay, we're going to put a stadium or an arena here. Those generally have not been profitable for owners or for cities that end up buying them. But it's nice to see an owner putting some money in. And Anaheim Ducks are on pretty solid ground. Every now and then I do see people arguing that the Anaheim Ducks don't support the Anaheim fans don't support the team as well, yada yada. The sport's fine. When the team is good, the support is just fine. And this year, Anaheim's attendance, I'm pretty sure, went up substantially, especially towards the end of the season. It seemed like it anyways. More energy in the crowd, and now renovations to the building. Kudos to Anaheim for getting that done. Jackson Stauber signs a 2-year extension with the Utah Hockey Club, a 2-way extension as well. So 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027, he'll be paid $775,000 at the NHL level when he's up, $300,000 at the AHL level when he's down there. But there's a guaranteed money in there just in case he never gets called up that year to the NHL roster. $325,000 guaranteed next season, $350,000 guaranteed the season following. So Jackson Stauber, not bad for them in a call-up this year. Call-up or two. And so he gets rewarded with a 2-year, 2-way extension. Very likely going to remain the number 3 option for them in the AHL. The draft lottery's finally been revealed. Monday, May the 5th. Now, I did not set up a live stream for this yet. I would think it's going to be at 3:30 Eastern, or 3:30, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. But there hasn't been a confirmation. Once that is confirmed, then I will set up a live stream on the channel. This will be the 9th straight year of a live stream with the draft lottery. So it's kind of where the channel's birthday kind of unofficially is, although I was doing hockey videos before and after that. But at any rate, May the 5th, and it's on a Monday, so they just miss out on the May the 4th. I couldn't wear a Star Wars jersey. I could still try to wear a Star Wars jersey, but we know that Vancouver and Boston are both in the draft lottery, so maybe I'll throw on Boston. Maybe I'll throw on Detroit. The thing is, no team that I've ever worn for the draft lottery has won the draft lottery, so yeah, I'll have to think of that one over, right? But yeah, if I go with the Flying V, and if I find that old bucket hat, I'm not sure where it is. I think it's in a box somewhere. Maybe I can go back with the original Vancouver Canucks look from way back when. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Canuck fans, how do you feel about the exit of Rick Tocchet from the team? Who do you think should be the next coach? And why should it be Manny Malhotra? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And, I mean, I could put a panic magnet up there for the Canucks. I've discussed before how it always feels like there's some level of panic in the market, but yeah, it's the off season for them, so I'll just leave them alone for that. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.